Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Saturday Morning Comic Review. I'm your host, Dylan Wallace. Today, we have a great issue for you guys. I think it's going to be a longer one, to be honest with you. Just a bunch to talk about. For one, I wanted to show off a little bit some of the books that we got from New Comic Book Day, for one. And then we'll go through, of course, the polls for this week, the polls for next week. And then we'll also have the reviews, of course, but then we have previews also loaded up as well. So a bunch of stuff that is coming at you guys today. But first, let's start off with those new comics from Free Comic Book Day. Let me flip over here. And on the camera, we'll go and focus in on the content. So I haven't gotten through all those books yet. I picked up 13 in total. Those are all listed up, I think, on Instagram at this point. But you know how these books can be. If you've done New Comic Book Day before, or Free Comic Book Day, I keep wanting to say new, but free. You know, like sometimes it's just maybe 4 really short stories all included in one. Maybe it's just one story, but then a bunch of ads. Maybe it's a preview of what's coming out for the summer. It kind of just all depends. But it comes out from different publishers and a whole bunch of different stuff. So this first one and these first 7 books are ones that I've actually read through. These are 4 basically short stories that came out, more of like a horror or dark gothic theme. Then we have here, this is Big Red. This is kind of like a zombie apocalyptic theme. It's pretty decent. Isaac, I think, it seems like it's some sort of manga, almost like isekai type deal. So we have that, which had 2 short stories in there. Then we have the Energon universe. So this is a nice one-off special that was mostly focused on the G.I. Joe series and what's happening there. Really enjoyed that one. Then we had Planet Death. I really enjoyed this one. It's actually kind of like a newspaper feel. And then check out the art on this one. This is pretty awesome for this. Definitely worth showing, and I'm considering picking it up as far as the previews. I liked it a lot, and I like the feel of it too. It almost feels, I don't know, there's something old school about it, so I enjoyed that one. I Hate Fairyland. This was okay. It's something from Image, and it's basically recapping this long-going series and all the different volumes that were involved. It seems like it's a funnier series, but it's a pass for me. And then we had 2000 AD, which is kind of like a sci-fi futuristic type of book. So this seemed interesting, but I don't know if I'll actually go ahead and pick it up. But they had a couple of stories in here that seemed pretty cool. So those are the 7 that I've actually read. What's still up to come, this book is much thicker. I wonder if you can see the thickness. You can there on the camera. But it's actually 3 books in one. So we have Hulk number 3, Spider-Gwen, the Spider-Ghost number 1, and then Daredevil 227. So the nice thing about that is, at least from last year anyways, it is 3 full-on comics in here. And I haven't read any of these 3 books, which would be real, well, unless it's Incredible Hulk. But it just says Hulk 3, so we'll see. But if that's the case, I haven't read any of these, and it would be really cool if they were actually, brand new stories that I've never read before, and it basically got 3 free books that would usually cost like $3.99. So that would be pretty awesome if that's the case. Then we have this Fantastic Four issue, so that should be good. A Star Wars issue as well. This Blood Type, which I'm sure is just kind of a short story deal. This Superman Unlimited should be pretty good, and this one here called Snow Monkey. So those are all the ones that I had there, about 13 books in total. So just looking forward to diving into the rest of them. Probably get to them this week. Don't necessarily want to do a full review on them, but I hope you guys were able to get out there for Free Comic Book Day. It's a really awesome thing that the industry does, and a great way to just get folks into the medium. I was there at my local shop. I got there, I want to say it was I don't know, maybe 45 minutes before they opened up, and the line was already starting to form. And then by the time we actually opened up at 10 a.m., line completely wrapped around the block. Our town makes a big old celebration out of it too. They like shut down the main road where the comic book shop is. All the other local businesses get involved. It's a pretty fun day. They had a bunch of vendors out there, so they treat it like a pretty big deal, at least here anyways. So I hope you guys, if you haven't checked it out, highly recommend it. And next year, first Saturday in May, and it's like a interesting coincidence that that's also the Kentucky Derby. So there's just a lot that happens early on in May between that, May the 4th, Cinco de Mayo. You got a whole bunch of stuff happening. So just wanted to talk about that briefly. You can see the books that we have queued up here, but before we jump into that, let's flip over to the screen and then show the polls that we have for this week. So you can see those listed here. Small week, thank goodness. I think that's usually what they do when you have free comic book day the week before and the week after. It tends to be a lighter week on purpose, right? You just want to take the pressure off the stores because they have to prep and get all these books ready to go for the free ones. And then, of course, your regular customers and fans, they are just for the most part going to be focused in on what the free comic books rather than the actual series that they have going. So you have that element as well. So there's just kind of a lot to it really. But this week, 12 books, and we got pretty much everything here. So we have Absolute Green Lantern. Reddit will review it. And the nice thing is now that I'm showing the screen, at least if you're watching on the YouTube, if you see this yellow mark, that's how you know that I've already read it. The Absolute Superman, number 7. Reddit will review it. All New Venom, number 6. Reddit will review it. Free Planet, number 1. Reddit will review it. Grommets, number 7. Reddit will review it. The Moon is Following Us, number 9. I saved that one as a backlog, so we will review that on the next Omega, which comes out probably on Tuesday of this week. Resurrection Man, also going to do on the Omega. Sam Wilson, Captain America, number 5. Before I picked this up, I thought this was just going to continue on, but this is actually the conclusion to this series. So that'll be the end there. We read it. We'll review it. Storm is a backlog, so we won't get to that one for a while. Ultimate Wolverine, number 5. Reddit will review it. West Coast Avengers, number 7. Reddit will review it. And then X-Men, number 16. You can see this little purple insignia here. Basically, that means it was on my pull list, but the shop was shorted. So it just didn't have any, or it was damaged, or whatever the case is. So they'll be able to reorder that, and they'll have that ready to go. So I have those 8 that we'll review, and then I had 2 backlogs that I read a little earlier in the week. I was able to pick up the books on Thursday, so I think it was Wednesday or Tuesday. I read through some of those other ones. So 8 from this week, 2 backlogs, and then we'll finish up the remainder in the next Omega, and then most of that podcast and video will mostly be backlog items anyways. So yeah, not a bad week for pulls at all. I think overall that's about the sweet spot of where we want to be. So with that, and I realize I forgot to play the sounder for the polls, so I'll give you the sounder anyways. Now we'll go into the actual reviews. I should have read most of these books earlier. Hold on one sec. Grab a sip of this coffee. I woke up crazy early today, like 5 in the morning. Probably didn't need to. We have an older car that needed repairs. Took it to the shop. It's going to be pretty expensive. It's like an 11-year-old car, 120,000 plus miles. So we're like, okay, let's try to get a new one before these tariffs go live and all that stuff, right? So Friday was the dealership, and you know how that process can be. If you've ever bought a car, it is never just an in and out. And stupid me, I didn't bring any comic books with me. I was like, this is the perfect time, when they got to go talk to their manager and it takes like 20 minutes. I could have read like a book every time that they went and did that, and then they send you to the finance office, and like then you got to wait there too. And so I was like, man, by the time we got home and it was all said and done, I could have been done. But no, then I had to rush through everything and wake up this morning. I read through this morning before we started recording. So if I'm stumbling through my words a little bit, that's the reason. Just a little bit tired, but that's okay. we got the car, we got the books read, and we are recording a show. So let's get into these reviews here. We have the 10, like I mentioned, so we'll review them in this order. Let me pull up the screen so you can actually see what it is that I am talking about. So, Absolute Superman, number 7. Absolute Green Lantern, number 2. Ultimate Wolverine, number 5. Free Planet, number 1. All New Venom, number 6. Grommets, number 7. Sam Wilson, Captain America, number 5. West Coast Avengers, number 7. And then we get into those backlogs. Miles Morales, Spider-Man, number 12. And then X-Men, number 7. So those are the books that we have listed. Start off with Absolute Superman here. And so this book, we'll flip over to our shared screen. Very good. Gave it a 4.5. League gave it a 4.4. I think for the most part, League has this as the front runner for the book of the week. Actually, since I already have it here, let's duplicate that. Go to Discovery, and then our pick of the week. Thus far, at the top, yep. So it is Absolute Superman. It is in the lead, 31% of the vote. That's about average of what you typically see. So not completely running away with it. Number 2, then you have Ultimate Wolverine. Number 3, Absolute Green Lantern. Then Resurrection Man at number 4. And then The Amazing Spider-Man, number 3 at number 5. So 4 of the 5 books is what I have on my pull list, which is awesome. I always love to see that majority of the books are listed somewhere in the top 5 of the picks of the week. But this is what everyone, or for the most part, the most popular pick of the week was for... what was it? The 7th, I guess, is what that pull date was. Is that correct? The Wednesday? Yep, the 7th. So we'll flip back over here to the actual review. Let's jump over to the main feed. This one is a recap of the Brainiac, basically. His backstory and how he's all involved in this absolute run. And very dark, very twisted. Didn't expect the book to go this way in any way, shape, or form, but I'm so glad that it did. It is gruesome. So we learned that this Brainiac was basically a clone printed literally like 150 years ago or something like that. And all that he was designed to do is to be in the trash room and dispose of the dead Brainiac bodies into an incinerator. Literally shovel the bodies, throw it into the incinerator for 100+ years. That's all he did. So he didn't have any knowledge and wasn't really connected into the hive that is Brainiac. And so for years and years and decades, it's just doing this. But then the bodies start to slow. And as the bodies are slowing down, there are no more bodies to throw into the incinerator. He gets curious and it's like, okay, what's going on? He opens up the door and then realizes that all the other Brainiacs are now dead. And so now he's like Brainiac Prime, or Brainiac 100 is what he proclaims himself to be. And then I think from there, it just kind of restarts all the Brainiac clones and drones around the world. So in this series and run on Earth, the Lazarus Corp runs the entire world, which is run by Ra's al Ghul. And for whatever reason that we don't know yet, Brainiac is the henchman of Ra's al Ghul. And so this Brainiac is trying to serve Ra's al Ghul and the Lazarus Corp, whatever their objective is. And we start off the issue with it's like 3 soldiers that are infiltrating Brainiac's lab and trying to steal something, destroy Brainiac, whatever they're trying to do. And Brainiac completely kills and destroys them. And he does it in like the most gruesome way possible by literally like melting their insides. One of them starts like vomiting just blood and like their bones and guts. The other one's skin just starts to shrivel up and burn. Like just the most gruesome, torturous way that you can imagine. And then the third one he actually takes and he starts like running experiments on them. And you could tell that this Brainiac has literally just lost his mind, right? He is just a sociopath, psycho, as you can imagine, in the craziest way, like Joker level of psycho. And his whole thing is like, I can't figure out the Superman thing. Who's the Superman? Why is he so powerful? It doesn't make any sense. And just trying to figure out that whole thing. So he actually connects with a bunch of the other Brainiacs, and he puts the call out there. Like, does anyone know about the Superman thing? Nobody knows anything about it. Nobody knows anything about Krypton. There's very little information on it, and the planet's presumed to be completely wiped out. They never actually got to interstellar travel, so it doesn't make any sense that this Superman would be here. They have a little bit about the Red Star, and what he's really trying to get after is the cape that Superman has, and the red kind of dust that it leaves as a trail. Like, there has to be some sort of connection there that he tries to figure out. So he learns a little bit of information. Then all the Brainiacs are like, well, who called this like conference in the first place? Who is this? And he just literally hangs up on all of them. And so from there, he's basically going to try to figure out, okay, how do we hunt down the Superman? So after he's done with experimenting on that one soldier, he kills him and then moves over to another soldier that he's been working on. And it's the soldier from a couple issues earlier that caused all the conflict out in Pakistan and caused all these civilians to die innocently. So they took him, and now they're basically taking him and plugging him in and creating a super soldier out of him. And they're going to send him to Smallville, right, to Kansas, to now basically go after Superman. So very cool story. Liking where this is going. I just didn't expect to make Brainiac this gruesome and this violent overall. So this is where they basically made him the shovel guy for all the dead Brainiac bodies, and some of that backstory listed out here. And you can see the art in this is like really good. High detail, very sci-fi. Love the coloring that they've done with this book as well. So it's just an excellent book. Overall, I'd say if you want to pick a series, you want to pick a run of what do I focus in on, go with DC, go with Absolute. I think that's the best that comics has to offer right now. I truly do. The Ultimate series, if you're more Marvel and you want to stick with those characters, just as good. But if I'm gonna choose one, gun to the head, have to choose one. It's gonna be the Absolute universe. So from the Supermans, the Batman, Wonder Woman, all those are excellent. But that actually transitions us good into the next one, which is Absolute Green Lantern. So let's flip over to that one. Flip over to the screen share real quick. This one I gave a 4.5 as well. League only gave it a 3.9 on this one. I enjoyed it a lot. What we get here is kind of a mix of... Oh, and also, sorry, real quick for Superman. I would say you could jump in on that one if you want. You're going to miss a lot of the detail and everything that happened before, but this is the first time we get the backstory on Brainiac, so all of that is net new information. I think you'd be totally completely fine to do that there. Back over to Green Lantern here. So, again, I gave it a 4.5. We get, this is nonlinear storytelling again. We have Hal in the diner. We have Joe in the diner. And after the previous issue, and all the citizens that are in it were scared and like terrified as to what all is happening with Hal, because he's got like this black matter that is appearing across his body, and Joe came in to like stop him and basically calm him down. We learn a little bit more about the first contact with Abin Sur, and from there, he came down, and actually let me go ahead and pull up my notes here, make sure I have this all correct. So Abin Sur, he came down, and when he flew down, the town, of course, is like terrified, like what the hell is going on, and there's a standoff between him and the police officers, and they're trying to figure out how to handle the situation. So you have Hal, you have John, you have Joe, all there in the crowd, and they're like, hey, we got to treat this as though it's first contact, like just try to have a conversation with him rather than like going in guns blazing. And so then Abin Sur is like, okay, analyzing, right? And so he just starts analyzing everyone, and then he just decides like they're not worthy for whatever reason, and just starts killing off a bunch of people. So once the killing starts, then the police officers, of course, open fire, and then he starts killing even more people. He cuts off someone's hand, and then John Stewart in particular runs out I think it's to try to stop one of the guys from shooting, and when that happens, Abin Sur then flies up into the sky. So he's killed at least two, cut off one person's hand, so injured a third, and then flew off into the sky. And so at that very moment, then we flip back to in the diner, where it's Joe, who we believe has the Green Lantern power, and then Hal, who has like this dark matter going in all around him. Hal actually has a gun from the scene, and he never like relinquished it. And so now Hal is like eating is this black matter is like eating into his brain from emotionally, right? There's like fear and anxiety and doubt like creeping into his mind, and he keeps saying he's trying to fight it off, but he can't. And so he pulls the gun out, and then he starts to point it then at Joe, and Joe's like, oh my god, what the hell is going on, right? And so from there we then flip back over to the scene of the first contact, and John Stewart is like, I think I know a way to solve this, and then he holds up the ring. And so it's interesting because earlier in the book they also mentioned, oh, what happened to X, Y, and Z person, and those are like the police officers and one of the three that died, and then they said and John as well, and John hasn't been shown in the present at the diner or in the first issue. So I wonder if he dies along the way. Well, that's kind of what the foreshadowing is kind of leaning towards. But it's interesting to see, like, okay, is this actually the Green Lantern ring? Is this a different ring with a different power? We'll just have to see where all that goes and where all that leads. But this book so far is good. I like where it's going. I like kind of the obscurity of it all, right? Like just trying to figure out like what exactly is happening here. It's good. It's good writing. So let's flip over to the art here and take a look. I'd say the art is fine, serviceable. A nice splash page here, right? So this is Abin Sur on the kind of the first contact, but nothing too crazy or over the top. But I've been enjoying the heck out of it. So here's when the fighting all starts to break loose, right at the middle of the book. It's good. If you're into Green Lantern, I think this is a pretty cool take on it. Obviously, Hal is a Green Lantern in other issues, and here he seems like he's the bad guy. Abin Sur has, kind of the green hues that are going around him, so he's a Lantern in some way, shape, or form. So are the Lanterns bad in this one? It's more of like, we'll have to wait and see, and we'll find out. And so here's where Hal, has the gun and the weapon, and where, like, the dark thoughts are kind of creeping in. It's a great book. I enjoyed it. I guess I'm a little higher on it than where League is at, but I thought a 4.5 for sure. I was in between the two, definitely leaning towards a 4.5, and that's what I decided to go with. So that is Absolute Green Lantern number 2. So now let's pull up Ultimate Wolverine number 5. Flip over to the screen here. Still trying to figure out this muscle memory of like going from one to the other and like how it's all should be paced out. But this one I gave a 4.5. Lee gave a 4.3. Excellent book here. Really love the cover here as well, as you can see on the screen. So this book actually picks up with Wolverine, and we are introduced to Sabretooth in this one, which is awesome. I'm gonna grab a quick sip of coffee here. So as part of the Ultimate Universe, we have what's called like the Opposition versus Wolverine, and Wolverine is the Winter Soldier here. He's part of this council, and Wolverine has basically been taken in and captured. He used to be part of the Opposition, and now he works for the council rather than the Opposition. And we basically find out in this one that Logan and Sabretooth used to be friends back in the day. And now Sabretooth's still part of the Opposition. He has 2 mutants that he's trying to get out of the country and basically smuggle. So Sabretooth owns a bar, and he's got these 2 mutants hidden underneath. Bar closes down. He allows the mutants to come out. One of the mutants is Leech, which is an important detail. And then when they're out, and I think he gives them like a Shirley Temple or something like that, then he hears something. So he's like, okay, guys, you got to go back and go hide. And then sure enough, it is Logan who shows up. And so Sabretooth and Logan start going at it. And what an interesting take of where Logan's the bad guy. That happens from time to time. But then Sabretooth actually being the good guy. Pretty cool take. I thought that was awesome. So they start fighting. And as they start fighting, we get then a flashback of Logan and Sabretooth at a campfire. And Logan's basically like, hey, if they take me in and they turn me into some sort of monster, you just got to kill me. I see what they do to these people. I don't want any part of this. You just got to take me out. Promise me you'll take me out. And he's like, okay, I promise. So we go back to, present day as they're fighting and going. Wolverine literally cuts off Sabretooth's arm, which is like crazy how they do it and how bloody it is. I swear this could be a red band. I'm surprised it's not a red band book, but it could be for sure. And so they just keep fighting and it looks like Sabretooth is about to die. And then the door flings open. It's Black Widow, who's part of the opposition. She just recently joined. She shoots a tranquilizer at Logan, and it actually hits him, and it actually knocks him out. And the reason it knocks him out and the healing powers aren't working is because of Leech. So Leech, his whole powers is he sucks people's powers out and just like neutralizes them. So his healing powers have stopped. So you got Wolverine out, Sabretooth in very bad shape, of course, and then Black Widow, who is going to smuggle these two mutants out. She's been the wheelman in the previous issues as well. And so now they have Logan, they're throwing him into the trunk, and they're going to bring him to the opposition. Excellent book. Really well done. Enjoying the heck out of this. With that actually being said, this one is going to be my comic of the week as well. So good. From the cover to the interior art and the story and what we're doing with Sabretooth and Logan as the Winter Soldier, it's just been excellent, excellent stuff. So let's flip over here to the camera so you can see some of this art and this brutality. So here is basically the scene in the bar before all the chaos starts to happen. And then we get the actual Wolverine showing up, and then the violence begins here, right? You can just see like how gruesome this whole thing is, man. It is just nuts. So I really enjoyed the Ultimate Universe and everything that they're doing here and the different twists and takes on these books. So it's been really good stuff here. So this is Black Widow showing up, Wolverine's out, putting them and loading them up into the trunk, and then presumably going to take them back to the opposition. Hopefully they can shake the spell of the Winter Soldier and just kind of go from there. So yeah, that's over. Ultimate Wolverine. Again, I gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.3, and for me, it is comic of the week by far and away. Really good stuff there. So with the highs of that, now we have the lows of Free Planet, and man, this book is just not good. And as I read it, I was like, okay, I'm reading this and there's like, A, there's no way this is good. B, I'm like struggling and like I can't understand like what I'm reading. It is so dense. So I gave this book a 3. Lee gave it a 2.8, right? So I'm on pace with pretty much everyone here. It says 52 ratings thus far. And then I was reading through the comments and all the comments agreed with me. So I was like, all right, thank God I'm not losing my mind here. But the book is just way too dense. It's just way too dense. It's trying to set up all this storytelling on this planet and this empire and what all this stuff means, and it's introducing way too much at once. This is a novel in a comic book medium form, and it just does not work at all. The biggest tell, and I have to just show you just the art from the beginning, is look at all this text here. That it's just way too much. I looked at it, I was like, oh boy, here we go. And the book is only $3.99. And you start off with its text, and it just doesn't stop. Like, look at all these text bubbles here. It's way too much. The art's incredible, but, like, look at that. And you have all these confusing names, all these characters, and and I'm reading it, and the vocabulary they're using, I'm like, I'm stupid. I don't understand what we're talking about here. It just made me feel, I was like, man, I don't know what we're talking about, where we're going, and it's so frustrating. Like, why is there so much text? Who allowed this to happen? It doesn't make any sense, folks. Ugh. So as I was going through it, and it took like a good 30 to 40 minutes to get through this whole book, I was like, this isn't it. I threw up the rating. Thank goodness League agreed with me. It's so funny. I'm in the same place with all of them. They're like, way too dense. I don't understand. I feel like an idiot. But I'm buying the second one. But I'm going to pick up the second one. I'm going to be locked in until issue 3. And I'm kind of the same way too. I'll pick up issue 2. Hopefully we get all this mumbo jumbo out of the way, and then we actually get the story behind it. I think what they're trying to set up here is a very traditional, kind of intergalactic space opera type deal. We have an empire, and they're oppressing a planet. The planet doesn't want to be part of it anymore. It looks like there's some sort of mutiny involved as well, where we had folks that were part of the Empire now supporting the rebellion. This planet is now free and declared itself to be free, and then all the internal politics and BS that goes along with it. That's basically the bottom line. But they're introducing a bunch of different resources, right? So, Star Wars is the moisture farming, and then every intergalactic thing has some sort of resource for mining and trying to take over, right? Like, that's introduced into here as well. But it's just like way too in its stuffy of like trying to figure out what all we're talking about here. So the only saving grace here is, like I mentioned, the art. The art is very good. So if you look throughout, it's pretty interesting characters visually. But again, look at that text. It is just, and it just doesn't stop throughout the whole book. Like, this much text usually warrants like a $5.99, but it's not even good. I'm like, I'm so confused. I don't understand what's going on here. So, yeah, that's Free Planet. It's a 3. And if the art wasn't there, it would be a 2 and change for me. And I don't think I've ever gone below a 3. Because to me, it's like, okay, below a 3, like, there has to be something fundamentally incorrect with the book. That hasn't happened here. But if the art wasn't there, you didn't have the art, and this is clearly like a novel put into a comic book format, then we got a serious problem there. So that's Free Planet. Obviously, it's a skip for now. Obviously, it's a skip. And then let's see for, what was I going to say? Oh, Ultimate Wolverine. You could jump into that one. I think it'd actually be fine. But you're going to miss a whole bunch of details, so you may as well start at the beginning. Next up here, All New Venom. You could actually skip right to the this book here, because we basically get the backstory. It's already been revealed who is Venom, and it's MJ. That was the big reveal we were waiting for. Book 1 through 5. I actually thought it was going to end there. I thought the whole thing was going to be the mystery of, like, who is it? We had these 4 suspects. It turned out not to be any of them, and it turns out to be MJ. Here we get the story as to why. So this one I gave a 3.5. Lee gave a 3.3. It's like kind of a silly story that doesn't really make any sense, and they try to justify as to here is why you have MJ as Venom, and it stems back from an event that took place earlier called the Venom Wars. We thought that MJ died in that. She did not die, and the reason she didn't die is she was able to bond with a symbiote. So it explains that whole story. Doesn't really make any sense. Unfortunately, MJ as Jackpot, which is her like superhero persona, doesn't make any sense as a superhero in the first place. She basically has this watch, and it works like a slot machine, and whatever the 3 symbols show up, it picks a random superpower out of nowhere, which is so ridiculous and impractical. It's like, why would this be designed the way that it is designed? But that's how it is. And so her as a superhero character is already fundamentally broken, right? Most people are like, this doesn't make any sense. Why would you design something this way? So now you also have this Venom piece as well. She hid it from her boyfriend the entire time, so that's why they haven't been intimate for a long while, because you got this third person in the room that's Venom in her mind, and these two are fully linked together. It's not even like a symbiote where it's the symbiote can then, absorb someone else. These two are about to die, and they fused and bonded with each other, and by fusing and bonding with each other, prevented dying, basically. So now that they're like inseparable, and she's explaining this to her boyfriend and then the other Bugle reporter as well. And so MJ keeping it all secret from her boyfriend, Venom's like, fine, I'll keep the secret as well. But then you have to get Dylan Brock for me, right? That's Eddie Brock's kid. So he is with Flash. And so I guess there's a character called the Flash in the Marvel Universe. I had no idea. But he's with Flash, and Venom just wants him under their roof. So that's why MJ and her boyfriend decided to adopt him in the first place and just take him in. And he's like a teenager at this point. So that way Venom could keep an eye on him. He still has, ties to Dylan Brock as well. So that is why he's brought in. And then, of course, the boyfriend's all pissed off of like, why didn't you tell me this in the first place? You got this silly power that they're using. So that doesn't all make sense. It's a mess. It's a mess as to what all is happening here. The only saving grace that you have of this is it could be interesting to see what happens here. I think this particular issue is just meh. But that being said, we'll see how it all goes and what the next storyline is going to be. I like the cliffhanger that it left off on. Guess Flash was outside of their apartment listening in. And so now he's about to fight with MJ / Venom because he's like, oh my gosh, I just released this child that had the symbiote influence on him before, and now he's in danger again of all that happening all over again under your roof. So that makes sense there. Why he's hanging outside of the apartment and listening in, I do not know, but that is the story of where it led. So it's a 3.5. I'd say overall for this book, they've all been 3s and 3.5s. It's just I don't recommend it. You should have just ended it at number 5. I'm amazed. 218 people. So I guess people just love Venom. So I'm amazed that it has this many people reading it, and that's why it's continuing. But overall, it's a skip, guys. It's a skip. So let's go to the wrong button here. Let's go to the art on the inside. Art is pretty decent, pretty good here. So here's basically the breakdown. This is MJ dying, right, and why the symbiote and her bonded. So pretty cool art that you have there of like them actually bonding, but it's just really silly on like how and why these two are together. So it just doesn't really make much sense. But I think the art is, you know, very good, very typical for Marvel Comics and what you would come to expect. And then that's Flash outside the apartment saying he's basically has to fight MJ. So that's fine and all, but again, I do recommend you just pass on this one. It's not worth it, in my opinion. So that's all new Venom number 6. I gave it a 3.5. Lee gave that one a 3.3. So with those bummers out of the way, let's pick it back up with Grommets. Man, I love this book, and I am so sad to see this one go. It's just such a bummer in my opinion, and this one was also really delayed from the previous one. So this is the final of it. Came out obviously this week. The previous one came out November, right? So that's a pretty long delay, and especially for all the other books that came out like kind of month after month after month. So this closes it all up. This is our crew and our squad here, and I'm kind of pointing to it on the overhead here. So our main character is right here. These guys' best friend Brian, the girls that they're all into, kind of like the stoner kid, and then our main character's crush. Who's our main character again? I always forget the name. Let's see. Grommets. I want to say it's like it's Rick. That's what it is, Rick. So, anyways, for the story itself, we're wrapping things up here. Basically, these kids, they're misfits. It's the 80s. You can kind of tell by the art style. It's very like Saturday morning cartoon. I think that's what really brought me into it in the first place. But it's the 80s. They're skateboarders, so they're like viewed as like kind of dirtbags in this era. And you have all these jocks that they invited to a party. It got out of hand. The jocks like damn near killed these kids. Now they went to the police. The police don't believe them because the jocks just won like the state championship or in contention for the state championship. They don't want to jeopardize any of that. Rick found out that he's moving. His dad wants to move away down to Phoenix. They're in like Sacramento, California right now. So everything is like kind of unfolding and in the worst way. So now that the cops don't believe them, they all leave. And the dad's like, hey, I know we said we were moving in a couple of months, but the house is ready to go. We're actually going to move at the end of the week. Bummer. And so he tells Brian, like, hey, like, this is it. Like, I'm leaving. And so, you know, Brian, of course, is all ticked off and is upset that this is happening. So the day of the move, Brian calls up Rick and is like, hey, I got one more surprise for you. Come out here. And they're like literally about 30 minutes away from leaving. And so somehow, some way, Rick just sneaks out. They go skateboarding for one final time. They find this really cool spot. Brian, like, specifically like swept everything up, so all the pebbles are like brushed to the side. They shred it up. What's his face? Rick does his first like ollie, and so that is like pretty cool. It's like a nice little sentimental moment, right? So then after that run, then they all get to the spot where everyone else is hanging out. Rick gets to say his goodbyes. Samara is there, and so she's all upset and disappointed. And Brian's like, yeah, I brought him out. Can you believe he wasn't even going to say goodbye? And Rick's like, well, yeah, I'm not going to see you guys anyways. What does it matter? So that kind of pissed off Samara, and she leaves. And then he catches up with her. He's like, I'm sorry, didn't mean it like that. And she's like, yeah, well, it just is what it is. So she turns to leave. He then grabs her by the hand. They kiss, and they're like, okay, let's see if we can try to make this whole long-distance thing work. So that's pretty cool that they try that. And then Rick heads back to his home without saying bye to Brian. And Brian then comes up to him and is like, dude, I had another surprise I wanted to tell you. And by the way, I'm also moving to Phoenix too. I was like, whoa, what the hell? How is that? So Brian and his mom and grandfathers, who he lives with, they're sick and tired of all his antics. And like, we can't help it anymore. We're going to send you to, you know, uncle or auntie, whatever, who lives down in Phoenix. So in a couple weeks later, you'll be down there too, which is cool. Gives us a nice out to like continue this story in the series, to be honest. But I actually wonder if they had to rewrite it because they're like, we were going to wrap this up. It did really well. We want to keep this going. I wouldn't be surprised. I think that does happen from time to time in comics. And so they rewrite it, and then of course, you have to do the art to it as well. So then Brian, he moves down to Phoenix as well. They meet up with a whole bunch of misfits down there that are also skateboarders, but they're like kind of jock version of skateboarders. So they're like, we don't want to hang out with you guys. I'm like, okay. And it's like this half pipe that they're at. Like, you know what? We'll let you guys hang here and let you skate this if you can skate down this half pipe. And so Rick's like, hell no, I'm not doing that. He just learned his first ollie, right? Like he's not as seasoned, but Brian's like, screw it, I'm gonna try it anyways. So he gets the board up there and he's about to like drop in, and then the book just ends. It's just like awesome cliffhanger. I hope this comes back. It was so good. I love the hell out of this series. I gave this a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.8, man. And that's 83 reviews. That is the highest I've ever seen. I've seen 4.7. I've never seen 4.8. So good. Well done. Very well wrapped up. Highly recommend the trade. One of the best books that I've read in all this year and just honestly all time. It's so incredibly good. And then the art again on this is awesome. And now look at these text bubbles in comparison to like Free Planet, right? Like this is the way it's supposed to be. So we start off with, this is basically their fantasy of like if they could just attack all the jocks again. But this is how it's supposed to be. The art is supposed to lead the story, and then the text is just kind of supplementary. But you see what I mean when I say like Saturday morning cartoon? It's like, I don't know. It's just reminiscent of an older time and an older era. So I just really, really like it and enjoy it. This is an awesome book. Highly, highly recommend. Don't jump into this issue. It's the end. You'll miss all of the story, obviously. But it is an incredible journey, an incredible ride. I think the nice thing about it, too, is if you're listening to this and this is the first you've ever heard of it, I didn't just spoil the entire story, so you don't really know what all is happening and going on here, right? So you can catch up on it that way, too. So that's Grommets number 7. I'm going to miss this one. Again, I think they literally rewrote this ending, so that way they can have a volume 2. And if they have a volume 2, that's awesome. I'm there day one. I can't wait. So, again, Grommets number 7. Alrighty, we have just a couple more here, just about 4 more. We have Sam Wilson, Captain America. This one I gave a 3.5. Lee gave it a 3.2. Again, at first I didn't realize that this was going to be the end of the series, but I'm glad that it is because this just wasn't really good, to be perfectly honest. All of these books I gave a 3.5, if not lower. And the ending is fine. It's just very quintessential. Everyone's good. We saved the day. It's a very happy ending. So we have this huge mega corporation. They're trying to farm up in the sky, but turns out they have ulterior motives, and they're actually trying to just destroy the planet, create all this real estate that's only up in the sky. They're using disenfranchised people to work all the land, and like they're specifically going out and destroying like black communities like Detroit, Atlanta, I think Harlem was the other one. So, a lot of racial stuff that's brought into this one, but it's Sam Wilson, so it's that and a bunch of other black and Hispanic characters that are fighting against this evil corporation. So at the very end here, we have Harmon, who is the CEO of this thing. So he's our big bad villain. And the other heroes, they finally turn Hulk into Red Hulk here, as you can see from the title. And flip over to the main feed. As he turns into Red Hulk, then he destroys this whole ship, and it all comes crashing down. But now they're all falling. So obviously, Sam Wilson, he's got the wings, he's good to go. Hulk actually has wings as well. Turns out they were doing a bunch of experimentation on these guys too, and so a bunch of the different creatures all have wings. As they're falling, there's a shark I guess they're experimenting on. Harmon literally gets eaten by the shark, which is like ridiculous and silly, as they're all free falling to the ground. Falcon's niece, she is like injected with some sort of serum that gives her wings. So it's like everything is like all wing related, right? Trying to see if I can find where exactly it is. There it is. So that happens. So basically, Harmon's eaten by a shark. All the disenfranchised people, they want to keep what's left in order to work the land. the government or whatever agrees to that, so they can keep that. Everyone is like saved, and it just wraps up the story. I really don't know what more detail you need beyond that. That's it. It's fine. It's whatever. You can skip it. It's not really worth it. I'll flip back over so you can see a little bit more of the art. Let's see if we can get to like the part where Hulk actually has wings. This is where Harmon's eaten by the shark. I think there's kind of a bigger reveal on the wings too. It's like, what the heck are we even talking about here? You know, it's just so weird and bizarre, but that's the book. That's what we did for Sam Wilson, Captain America. I don't know. It's a skip, folks. It's a skip. What else can I say? So let's go into the next one here. West Coast Avengers. So for this, I enjoyed the heck out of this one. It's a tale of two cities with this one. It's a 4. Lee gave it a 3.8. I understand why. For this book, the one side is incredible. I'll start with that. We have the whole Ultron saga, debate, debacle, whatever. Ultron was split up into, I think it was 4 to 8 different Ultrons, but only the good side of Ultron, not the evil side. So we have the Ultron that joined the Avengers, and Tony Stark has like complete open access to him, and he can read everything. And in case that Ultron ever turns, there's like a failsafe put in place. When Ultron found out about that, he's like, oh my gosh, I was lied to. I'm out. Then we have a second Ultron that's creating a church, and basically he's taking people that want to and are dying or whatever and fusing them with Ultron. So they're like part machine, part human. Now we are introduced to a third Ultron. This one, after their whole council or meeting on the moon, decides he's flying up to the sun. He literally just stays in the sun, just like roasting and brooding and thinking. So after that, he decides, you know what? Screw humanity. He flies back to Earth, and he parks right above LA in the where the church Ultron is, and he's like, I can't believe this is what this Ultron decided to do, is fuse humans with us. How dare he share our gift with these humans that are clearly not worthy? And so he just decides to go in and just attack and start killing everyone and everything. And it is pretty brutal and gruesome in how he does it. And it's very classic Ultron in the dialogue. It's very akin to the MCU Ultron as well. Excellent. Well done. I enjoyed it. That alone could have gotten this book to a 4.5. Then the other side of the story, we have, you can see on the cover here, Killer Watt. He says he wants to rename himself because if you're going to be a hero, you can't have the name Killer Watt, right? Just comes off as though you're a villain. So he becomes Wonder Man. And Wonder Man is already a character in the Marvel Universe, and he's very protective about his name. So he shows up, and he's like, I heard what you said on the news that you want to be Wonder Man. I'm Wonder Man. And we come to find out that the only reason he said he wanted to be Wonder Man as a dig more towards his dad. His dad was a huge Wonder Man fan, and he and his father do not get along at all. Very abusive, alcoholic, like, you know, the whole classic tragedy that you can see with like daddy issues. And so you then basically have Wonder Man is like, okay, well, take me to your dad. Maybe we can like convince him some way, somehow. And so he takes him to him, and it seems like they're trying to make amends, but he's not really putting in much of effort. Killer Watt's not putting in much effort either. It was kind of like, what are we doing here? None of this really makes any sense. Why are we doing this? But Wonder Man's like, hey, Killer Watt, this is like another step forward in like trying to be a hero, basically. Lame, silly, 3.5 type stuff. So you mix the two together, and that's how I get the 4, basically. But the Ultron stuff, freaking awesome. Can't wait for more of that. As all this is happening, Spider-Woman, who's part of the West Coast Avengers as well, she has an inside informant on this church, and so she didn't hear for her a while. She showed up, and she sees all this going down, has now hailed all the other Avengers, Iron Man, War Machine, and then Killer Watt will join them as well to like, hey, help us out. So next issue should be the big fight with like this one bad Ultron versus the Avengers, and then our Ultron that was part of the West Coast Avengers that's all ticked off because of he was lied to. We still don't know where he is, so he'll probably get into the fray. So you have maybe these 3 Ultrons going off against each other, and then I think there's some more. I think it was 4 or 8. It was something like that. So maybe those will get brought into here as well. It's good stuff. So You could join in on this one, but I'd say you probably want to start earlier, to be honest. So here, let's just get to the Ultron parts. Those are the best. So here, this is him from In the Sun, right? And then just Ultron being freaking brutal here, man. I love this stuff. Ultron's probably my favorite villain, probably, certainly right now, anyways. So the art on it's pretty cool. I'm enjoying this overall. Once the premise was you're gonna have Ultron joining the Avengers, I was like, I'm already sold. I'm in, hook, line, and sinker. Let's do the damn thing. So yeah, West Coast Avengers, number 7. Overall, I'd say my ratings have a little bit higher than what League has been doing for the most part. But for me, I've been enjoying the heck out of it. So can't wait for the next one. Now we get into our backlogs here. So we have Miles Morales number 12. So let's pull that up on the share screen. This one came back a while ago, November 29th, 2023. So, better part of 2 years at this point. And this was the last issue before Gang War, which was an event that was specifically for the Spider-Verse. So you had Miles in here, you had Amazing Spider-Man. Basically any spider thing that was going on was involved in Gang Wars. I don't really think it was anything else. You might have had like a Luke Cage thing, but it just had to deal with characters that were in Spider-Man. So this is wrapping up what was this little mini event with Blade, Brielle, which is Blade's daughter, and Miles Morales. So this buttons it up before we get into 13, which is going to be the start of Gang War. So we're in the middle of this conflict. There's I guess kind of like an anti-hero or vigilante, Hightail, that's been going after Miles Morales. So she's part of Agent Gao's squad, and it's almost like a Suicide Squad in a way. Agent Gao does not like Miles Morales. She thinks that he is more of a vigilante than actually doing good, and so Hightail is trying to bring him in. While trying to bring him in was in the middle of this fight that Blade, Brielle, and Miles Morales were having with this vampire, Ramir. And she gets turned into the vampire. And so this issue is that whole fight and conflict, right? So now that she's a vampire, she's a speedster. Her whole thing is now she's even faster and more powerful. And so they escape from the abandoned subway where they're fighting. And from there, starts heading towards this really populated, marketplace basically, and Miles is doing everything he can to slow her down so there's no collateral damage. Basically gets to the point where he's shooting webs and stuff, and remember he's still kind of on the fritz with his spidey senses at this point, and so he's trying to overcome that and really trying to focus in on where to shoot. And it basically gets to the point where it looks like he's not going to be able to do anything, so he grabs her, and Miles of course has this electric discharge, so he fires that off, and it seems like it shakes off whatever mind control thing Ramir has on Hightail. It doesn't at first, and then he has to do it again, and then that seems to work. So that all takes place, and then after that, now you don't have this energy and this power source from Hightail feeding back into Ramir, so that allows Blade and Brielle the opportunity to injure and wound him even further, and then they have this MacGuffin basically to suck him in like a Ghostbuster does to a ghost, and then keep Ramir contained. So save the day, we're all good there, that's totally fine. So with that, Miles, from this discharge, he passes out in the backseat of the car as Blade and Brielle head to drop him off. They have some conversation back and forth, and it's kind of a coming of age of Brielle as she gets used to doing all this superhero stuff, and Blade's basically saying hey, it is going to be challenging and tough, and these things are hard, and we'll be able to get through that type of deal. And we basically wrap it up from there. So, nice little bow on this little mini series, and just really getting everything ready to go for Gang Wars, which is going to be in the next issue. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.8. Fine, serviceable issue. Not the time to jump in. Again, for any of this stuff that's in the long tail back run, I'd say just start on current. I'd say the biggest thing I learned now, and it probably takes folks just some time being in the hobby for a while, but biggest thing I've learned is just pick up a book and start reading it. You just never know where it's going to lead. You don't need the whole full story and the context. And a lot of times, even if you're trying to get the full story and the context, it's not necessarily going to be the most rewarding thing when you get it. And it's more of a nice little surprise of oh, I did read this, or oh, I do know what they're referencing here. But sometimes you you stress yourself out on trying to find all of these books, every single bit of the story. I want it all interconnected. And unfortunately, sometimes the event itself is just not that good. So you spent all this money and you did all this time and research of trying to like connect everything to no avail. And it's almost just not worth it. So, this is like, kind of a little bit of a tangent. But for those out there that are like listening of like, okay, that's cool, but like I don't have the context and the details on all these different books. You really don't need it for comics. And I wish that's like the one thing people knew, that are like, oh, I think I want to get into this hobby, but like I don't know where to begin. Like, where do I start? Just pick up a book. Just pick up a book. It takes a while. You'll either get the bug or you don't get the bug. And this is a hobby. I think I've said it before, but I'll say it again. You gotta want it. You gotta want comic books. It doesn't come easy. The stories are weird. You have these one-offs. You have these long-standing series. You have these mini-series. You got the Ultimate Universe, the Absolute Universe. Like, where do all these things stand, and where is everything in the timeline? It's not important. It doesn't matter. All it really matters is the art and the story that's in front of you right here and there. Like, and even for when it does matter, then you get through it and you read through it, and it's like none of this makes sense. And it's like, just roll with the punches. The whole thing is just what's in front of you right now. So that's my sales pitch for comic books. And for those that are like on the cusp, but like I don't know where to start, just pick up a book and start reading it. You'll find out pretty quickly whether or not this is for you or not for you. That's what I found for me anyways. So go to the store, I don't know, $20 in your pocket, you'd be able to pick up a whole bunch of books, and then you'll find out pretty quickly whether or not this is something you want to continue to pursue. So enough of the sales pitch. That is Miles Morales number 12. Let's go to our share screen here. This is the art inside. Very standard for Miles Morales. I think the way that they do a lot of the paneling here is, you see how it's like has these angles. That's very typical for Miles. And a lot of the action scenes and sequences are like lunging forward and moving to the side. I think that's something that makes Miles a little more unique compared to like Amazing Spider-Man and things like that. So it's always like these panels that are slightly off or slightly askewed or layered on top of each other. And then all these like action trails, that's like a very Miles thing, as I've noticed. Now I'm on like issue 12. But this is where he like does the static discharge and all that. So it's good. I've been enjoying Miles. So then we get to our final book here. X-Men number 7. Man, this book was freaking awesome. So let's go to here. I think I gave it a 4.5. Yep, and Lee gave it a 4.2. So I enjoyed the heck out of this one. We basically get the origin as to why Cyclops decided to set up the factory up in Alaska in the first place. And the reason that he chose it is he was just up there getting away from everything after the fall of Krakoa. His family had a cottage up there, and so he was just taking it all in, hanging out. Now, where the cottage is, there was also a factory making Sentinels, and while he's there, Magneto then shows up. So when Magneto shows up, they start talking and deciding what are they going to do next that Krakoa has fallen. And once that happens, while they're there, a wild Sentinel shows up. So it's very specific, a wild Sentinel. At their core, you have the core of the machine, right? So think of like the motherboard, if you will, on a computer. And a wild Sentinel, what it'll do is, no matter what, has this directive to chase down mutants, and it has this ability to reassemble itself or assemble itself from parts and bits and pieces, and then pursue whatever the mutant is that it's after. So that is what happened with this wild Sentinel. So it's like an elevated piece of technology. And so it appears in town, and this is recapping from the previous issue where the girl that was brought in by one of the X-Men, she thinks that she's a mutant. So we have the two stories now of here is why that Sentinel showed up in the first place versus presently that girl, now they're doing the testing to see whether or not she's actually a mutant. So Cyclops and Magneto, they're able to take care of the wild Sentinel and stop it in its tracks, and it's still there to this day, and it's enormous, right? It is dozens of stories tall, shooting down and like was about to attack this town. And now present day, testing the DNA, since it is a former Orcus and Sentinel building facility, they have all the technology to be able to test for mutants. They test her DNA and it comes back negative. She is just a normal human. And like, how could that be? So is there another mutant that this wild sentinel was going after? What could be going on here? And then we go later into the issue, and she's sleeping, and it has a panel on her hand, normal human hand. Then it changes almost like a werewolf, like furry type hand, and then it changes back to human. It's like, oh, it was her, but maybe she has a way to be able to mask her DNA some way, somehow, to where it's like it looks like it's human, then sometimes it's mutant, then sometimes it's human. So we'll have to see how that all goes. But the action in this was freaking awesome. You get some awesome Magneto in here. You also get a look as to why Magneto is now in a wheelchair. So there you got that awesome splash page of Magneto looking down. But basically, Magneto came back from death, and he's a clone of a clone. So because of that, his body is like just slowly withering away, and it's like a negative side effect of what is, part of this cloning process, basically. So so you can see the size and the scale of this wild sentinel when compared to the city. So the art in this is freaking awesome, and the action here is great. I just really enjoyed this issue overall. But that has been X-Men number 7. I'm really interested to see when we start merging this with Uncanny. You can see that page there, man. So good. Excellent stuff here. And then this is where it was frozen, and like where it still stands for today. This was the end splash page for the first one of this X-Men series. So yeah, just interested to see when it'll actually all start to converge with the other X-Men, like the Uncanny, Exceptional, so on and so forth. I know there is a part where that has started to merge already. This is a backlog, right? So this book actually came out on November 6th of 2024. So, I think we're on 16 right now, right? It was just part of the polls now. So we're getting there, but we still have a ways to go until we're current. And I think some of that stuff is starting to merge together, but I'm just excited for me to actually catch up to it and see where it all heads from there. So yeah, that's good stuff. So those are the books for this week's. Let's recap them real quick. So you have it top to bottom. And let's go to the main feed here. Absolute Superman number 7. Absolute Green Lantern number 2. Ultimate Wolverine number 5. Free Planet number 1. What a bummer, man. What it could have been. All New Venom number 6. Grommets number 7. Sam Wilson Captain America number 5. West Coast Avengers number 7. Miles Morales Spider-Man number 12. And then X-Men number 7. So with that, let's now go into our polls for next week. Locked and loaded. With those, it's a bigger week because we are kind of back into the swing of things as far as kind of the regular polls. For this, 19 books overall. Jeez, man. 19 is crazy. So that's why for the previews, honestly, that's the biggest reason why I kind of cut it down. I was like, it's just way too much to keep doing this. So that's basically the bottom line there. But let's talk about them real quick. We have Absolute Batman number 8. That should be awesome. Batman and Robin 21. That's going to be a backlog. Doctor Strange of Asgard number 3. That's been a really fun book and been enjoying that. Exquisite Corpses number 1. That'll be the first of that. Interested to see what that book is going to be all about. Green Lantern Corps number 4. The Hive number 4. The Hive is picked up, so I want to see what happened there. The first 2 were really bad. Third one was incredible. So I want to see with the 4th. I just wish it would have picked up sooner, because then I think this book would have really had some legs, but I have a feeling it may be canceled, to be perfectly honest, just of the poor performance that started it out, but we'll have to see. Then Huck, Big Bad World number 1. Interested to see what that's all about. The Immortal Thor 23. Immortal Thor, I think that's going to start coming to an end here pretty quickly. So that'll be a long run that's finally taken off the list. I enjoyed it, but it's just having these longer series is what's been killing me as far as this pull list, and I'm not a quitter. So I just want to see them to the end. And so the more that I have that fall off, the better, and then we can start getting into the previews and some newer books and so on and so forth. So Miles Morales 33. One World Under Doom number 4. Phoenix number 11, that's going to be a backlog. Miles is a backlog as well. Sister Imperator number 3. Spectacular Spider-Man number 15. Transformers number 20. Let's go for Transformers. Ultimate Black Panther 16. Ultimate X-Men 15. Uncanny X-Men 14. World Tree's back. Let's go. Love World Tree number 14. And then X Factor number 10, which is going to be a backlog. Uncanny is going to be a backlog as well. So a bunch of books here. I think when you whittle it down, of the 19 or so, maybe I have like 15 that are actually active. So that's not too bad of a number there. So then the last and final piece, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the previews I have coming up. And I actually realized I did not pull it up on my computer here, but I did email it to myself, so I have it here. I'll get it pulled up for you guys. And while we do that, let's have the books up here so you can see them. I'm looking at something on the screen. So I only picked up a couple of books here, and they're basically just one-shots. And the reason I did it was, I was like, okay, well, I want more of these pull sheets to be like 15 or lower. I think that's an appropriate number. So until it's like consistently at 15 is the absolute highest, I don't want to keep adding on series. But as I was looking through the previews, and I'm so thankful that I did, there were some in here where I was like already like committed in my mind that I'm going to do that, or this is like a finale, I'm going to do that, so on and so forth. So a list of a couple here that I think would be interesting, but I'm just not picking them up. And then I'll also have like the list of what I actually grabbed. So DC Gotham Sirens, I think would be interesting to pick up. I've read the most recent Sirens, and that's basically just taking Harley Quinn, Catwoman, and Poison Ivy, and they basically team up for like a little mini series. The last one I really enjoyed. They're really funny and kind of over the top, so I tend to like them, but I was like, okay, let's pass on this one. Captain America is starting back up if you'd be interested in that. Fantastic Four is starting back up. This is basically going to start because of the movie that's happening over the summer. This most recent Fantastic Four was some of the best work that has been done, is from what I understand. So it may be worth jumping into that. Doom 2099, which I think is just a reprint from the event that happened for 2099 years ago. But for me, I was like, oh, I kind of seem interested in that, but we're going to let it pass. One World Under Doom Gods. So each letter has like a period in front of it. So G.O.D.S. I was interested in trying picking up Gods, but I didn't get into it. So I was like, okay, this might be a place to get into it, but I just decided not worth it right now. Maybe something that I look out for the trade in the future. And then also for Marvel was Godzilla Destroys the Marvel Universe. That looked pretty cool as well. So those are the ones that I was thinking like maybe if I had less books, those would be ones that I'd be picking up. The other ones that I thought, or that I for sure am picking up, is Spider-Man versus the Sinister 16. This is like that Versus series. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you've noticed that there are some of these one-off, one-shot adventures of insert person here versus insert person from two different universes that really shouldn't intersect. Like we had Volstagg and Captain America together teaming up for a one-shot. There's going to be a Galactus versus a Ghost Rider, which I need to actually add. But this is going to be the last one, Spider-Man and the Sinister 16. So who all could that be, right? It's usually the Sinister 6. So it's, we'll see how that goes, and that'll be the last of that one. Then we have Star Wars The High Republic, the finale. So I was like, of course, I'm going to get that. I've been reading all these High Republics for the last 2 years at this point, so we'll get the finale on that one. And then we have the annual Hellfire. Instead of a gala, it's going to be a Hellfire Vigil. So this is a summer event that the X-Men have been doing for, I want to say 3, maybe 4 years at this point, where it is a massive book. It's like the size of like 3 or 4 issues all in one. It's the major events that happen in X-Men. And so this is a vigil for everything that happened previously at the Hellfire Gala from the previous year. I guess it was last year, maybe it was 2 years ago. But that was basically the start of the fall of Krakoa. And we presumed like a bunch of these X-Men were killed. They were not. And then, they had the whole thing that happened afterwards. But that was the start of it. And so these books are like colossal as far as what they mean for the universe. So yeah, I think we didn't have a gala last year, and then we had the wedding of Mystique and Destiny instead. And now this is the vigil, which will then set the tone for the next year and change more than likely. So highly, highly, highly recommend that. I know our shop, the last gala, they ordered a bunch. That ended up being a lot of people's comic of the year. The art on it was absolutely phenomenal because they do all these crazy dresses as though they're showing up to like the Met Gala. It's awesome, awesome stuff. So looking forward to that one for sure. And that's just a one shot. It's a nice thing too to like get into X-Men. Like that's the place to start for sure. And that comes out in July. I want to say these are all books May for July's order. So that's it. That's the show. That's all we have. That's all she wrote, folks. Let's pull up here our closing because I'm super tired and I forget everything that I need to say. So if you enjoyed this, be sure to follow, like, subscribe, all the things. If you're on YouTube, thumbs up and all that. If you're watching or listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, much appreciated. If you want to reach out to saturdaymorningcbreview@gmail.com, any tips, tricks, hints, things along those nature. Things that you like about the show, things that you hate about the show, things that you'd like to see different, just let me know. Happy to incorporate some new things. On Instagram, it's Saturday Morning Comic Review. I usually post the polls. I'll do like a little mini series as well of like, here are the 4 or 5 books of like cover of the week. This was the story of the week. This was art of the week. My bummer of the week. You can probably guess which one that is if you listen closely to the review. And then also on TikTok as well at The Helpful Bailiff. And then you can see here on League, I am The Helpful Bailiff as there as well. So if you want to see the books that I've read and my collection and the things that I have and like what score did he give that one again, The Helpful Bailiff on League of Comic Geeks as well. So I think that will wrap it up. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and I will see you in the next one. Go, 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 go.
This has been a DMW production. Thanks for stopping by.